Awesome. Thanks for choosing my session. I'm promising some fun stuff up front and some JavaScript stuff, lots of it actually. But before we get into that, let's wind it back a little bit. I need to give you a bit more context. So, to start, I'm Sarah, or Sarah on Twitter. I am the lead front-end engineer at Vend in Auckland. I started at Vend when we were quite small and just starting out. I've been part of our growth from about 20 people chatting in a room to a company that is now 6 offices around the world, totaling about 250 people. And that is just within just under 3 years. So within our product and engineering team, which is where I am, that growth has been from about 11 people when I started to about 70 now. Most of us are here in Auckland, but 5 are in our Wellington office, which we just opened. So it's been almost 3 years of crazy awesomeness and also crazy hard work. At Vend, we build software for retailers. We use pretty neat tech and paired with our culture, people, and team stuff, and everything that goes on. It's a pretty exciting place to be every day. We've got heaps of new things coming out this year, actually, that I'm pretty stoked about showing off. This is one of the products that I helped build, our point of sale. So this version is in beta at the moment, which is super exciting. If any of you have worked in retail before, you're probably familiar with the POS. As customers, when you go into a store, pick an item, have it scanned, discounted, and whatever, then you pay for it. That's what you're dealing with. We also build iOS apps, so this is another one of our POS on iPad, reporting systems, spaces for retailers to set up and manage their store and take inventory, as well as an online store, which we just released, as well as the whole internal admin portals, dashboards, and so on. So there's lots going on. This is a typical team building one of those products. We've got product people, including designers, and engineers specializing in front-end tech, quality assurance, back-end tech, or infrastructure. This is some of the tech we use in those teams to create those products. So I'm focusing mostly on the front-end side because that's my space, but I'm sure the guys on the front table can fill another whole slide in probably. IndexedDB is super interesting. So we've got databases in the browser, and a lot of our stuff has offline functionality, so I'm using the app cache manifest a lot. We've also got amazing tooling using NPM Bower, Gulp. We've got automated tests, Protractor, Selenium. We've got a continuous integration and continuous deployment thing going on. And our main focus at the moment is all the AngularJS and Smack's philosophy CSS stuff. The list goes on. So as I mentioned, we've been building lots of amazing stuff this year, and if you want to find out more, there are a whole heap of us around to talk about that to you. As lead front-end, I facilitate things like us making the right architecture decisions when it comes to JavaScript or anything in the front-end space. Us communicating between projects so we aren't building things twice and we're being super efficient. Us hiring the right people, knowledge sharing, teaching each other and others about what we do and how to do it best. But first and foremost, I am an engineer in a team that delivers product to our amazing retailers. As an engineer, these are the kind of questions I typically get asked. How long do you think this project will take? How are we tracking against our goal? How long should it take a junior or a senior engineer to complete this task? How many people would we need? This is probably sounding quite familiar to you as a professional developer. Deadlines, time, planning, people and teams, compromises, getting shit done and delivering stuff. These are essential parts of coding professionally. Building things for business and creating things in teams. Now, I really love programming, like probably all of you. And it's really cool because I get to do it for a job, like probably all of you as well. And that's extremely awesome. Though with jobs and all those questions about time, deadlines, pressure, things like that, no matter how utterly awesome your job is, and I can attest, It's still easy to get a bit into the grind sometimes, get blinkers on, begin to focus only on the end product, forgetting to enjoy the process of getting there. And really, forget the essence of what programming is. It's problem solving, experimenting, throwing it away and starting again, breaking stuff and putting it back together, having fun with it. Something I've found that keeps me loving programming, remembering these things, and in turn really developing my craft, is taking something where there's no deadline. No one cares if it's finished. Brad Bouse in his JSConf EU talk called it the usefulness of making something useless. It allows me to explore code, play with the code, get to know how I problem solve. Because at its core, that's all development really is, problem solving. It doesn't matter the tech. If you get to know how you problem solve, you will better know how long things take you, and you'll always be able to stay current. Especially in the JavaScript and front-end space, the tides are rapidly changing. Who knows what we'll be doing in 5 years tech-wise, but we will still be problem solving. So that's the hypothesis, and I really have been finding it to be true. Though I also really want to emphasize that not everything has to be serious and goal-based. These techniques could totally help you become a better programmer. But the main reason to experiment and play with code is it's fun. Programming is our craft. It's so cool that we can build things from nothing, some things people haven't even imagined before. Remember how amazing that is, and remember to enjoy it. Sometimes life doesn't have to be so serious. And because we're not being super serious, just start stuff. Don't be afraid. We've got a JFDI philosophy at Vend, which you might be able to translate. If you haven't got a GitHub account, I recommend you create one. Artists have sketchbooks, and this is our version. Any little idea you have, tinker a bit, push it up. It might go somewhere. Go and start with something shit, and it could become great. Using myself as an example, I'm going to give you a mashup of the projects I've been doing and looking into for the fun of JavaScript. Some people call it creative coding, and I've really become addicted. Maybe you'll come away with a bunch of ideas to start tinkering with yourself, or if not, it'll hopefully just be an array of interesting visuals. I do want to just quickly note that even though I have been using these technologies just for fun and framing it that way, just like anything, these can be used for both fun and for serious, so don't get me wrong on that. So my first foray into the world of creative programming was robots. And not just robots, JavaScript robots, which are the best kind. So you heard about the amazing stuff that Raquel's been doing earlier. My first project was dubbed ShoeBot. Oh, where's the volume? Let's start the video again. Here we go. Can we get it? Might as well go all out with the sound. Cool. Oh, I can do it. Okay. So, as you can see, ShoeBot is a little tank that delivers drinks around the office. Well, if you follow it around with an iPad, but you get the point. So this is a really messy part of our office, so I showed this bit just to show that we also have clean parts. But yeah, it was a really fun little project. Finale. Okay. So I learned so much doing this project. It's hardware-wise, the motors are controlled with an Arduino, and it's attached to a Raspberry Pi, which serves a web page to receive commands and send them along to the Arduino. So that's what I had open on the iPad at the beginning. The whole app is written in JavaScript. I use Johnny5, written by Rick Waldron, to send the commands to the Arduino, and I also use like Socket.io and Express for the web bit. It was super fun and also quite a challenging project for me, throwing hardware into the mix. There are a lot more factors with hardware when considering like debugging. So it might not be the line of code you changed that stopped it working. It could just be out of battery, and batteries have really proven my enemy in this space a lot. You also have to wait for stuff to be delivered rather than just an npm install. And yeah, so I really like challenging myself, so I got pretty interested in this whole JavaScript hardware space. And carrying on from ShoeBot, I soon heard about Cylon.js, and I've really been loving this library. The team at Hybrid Group that builds it has done an amazing job on documentation and examples, plus like all of the best libraries. It's open source, so if you notice anything wrong with the docs, you just make a PR. If JavaScript isn't your thing, well, you know why, but anyway, there's Go and Ruby versions, so if you try those out, totally let me know. And you can use it to control Arduinos as well as all these exciting existing platforms. So there's like the NeuroSky, which is that brain sensor thing, the Pebble Watch, keyboards, there's like command line speech tools that they have modules for, so you can make your robots talk, the Nest, and those smart light bulbs, and people are making new ones, new modules for different pieces of hardware with a Cylon high level bit all the time. So one of my favorite bots that I've created with this is BLINGBOT, the sparkly AR drone. So we filmed this at a retreat earlier this week that we had for engineering. So a key thing that I said there was, it did something! And this is the emergency stop if your program decides to quit. So that's pretty fun. It also it's got a video feed, so you can see what it's filming, and that uses the OpenCV computer vision library with Cylon. So you didn't really see the blinginess in the vid, so that's a close-up. I bejeweled it. My other favorite bot I created recently uses a Sphero, Elite Motion, and the Web Audio API. I named it BoogieBot, and it dances to music. So you shake it to connect to Bluetooth. Bluetooth is actually really difficult. It's like a super painful live demo, so that's why I got a video. So it's dancing to Beyonce. The colors change a bit. Demo videos are also kind of hard to see colors, but it's pretty fun. It uses the music data from the audio element to create a bit of a boogie, and I pause it to show that the Sphero light stops moving when you don't have any music going to it. Usually, oh yeah, and you can do song changes via the Leap Motion. I just added that for a bit of spice, why not? So for this program, I actually use like a full-on Chrome app. Normally, Cylon is run like via the command line, but you can also run it via the browser. And I had to do a full-on Chrome app because with the Bluetooth connection, that doesn't work in just a plain browser program. So yeah, that was really fun. And I became really enthralled by this whole audio reactive visuals idea using the Web Audio API. So that was my first time using that. Whoops. Okay, so this is something I'm currently playing with, this whole web audio thing. And I'll show you a mix of my most favorite projects that I'm drawing inspiration from right now. To start, this is a really cool visualization of the data you get access to via the analyzer node, which is created by Felix Turner, who has actually created lots of my favorite projects. I'm going to try use the extended desktop here, so bear with me. So this is the kind of data that you get. Oh, where's the mouse? This way. Okay. There's the waveform, which is the jagged white line. It's the shape of a sound wave as it flies through the air and hits your ear. The levels, which the bar chart is showing the frequency amplitudes from bass on the left to treble on the right, and the thick bar on the other side is showing volume, and when it goes white, those are the beats, like rapid changes in volume. So it's really awesome, the potential from that data to create sweet visuals. So one way I've used the data is with hardware, like I did with BLINGBOT, and another way is through the use of, if I can get my mouse back, WebGL. So this is another demo of Felix's.
Welcome to a new market. What is it? 33. That's incorrect.
It absolutely amazes me that this is done using JavaScript. Like, how exciting is that? You can get some pretty sweet visuals using those 3 bits of data. Okay, mouse. So this next one coming up was a project created by a guy named BarkekD on Twitter. It was made for a party, and they were projected, these next visuals that I show you were projected on walls. Is that going to?
If you'll turn the machine.
Oh. Classic demo problems. So I had this before, just needed to quit and reopen. So all the code for these are also open source, which is absolutely amazing.
If you'll turn the machine on.
So imagine being at a party, it's kind of dimmer, these are all projected on walls, and all written using JavaScript. There is other bits. This is one of my favorites here. This one's real cool. So this is all using WebGL. And with this one, it gets my favorite hardware element in. And if you wave your hand over the leap motion, you can interact with the JavaScript on the page as well. So that stops, and then I can get back into it. So you're at a party, you've got a drink in one hand, and you can do this in the other hand. How cool is that? It is JavaScript, so this is pretty exciting stuff. I could play with it all day, really.
Supersonic waves combined and brought his brainwaves.
Let's just enjoy this for another second. Yeah, so as I said, it's all open source, so I've been really looking into it and doing my own thing, but I just really like demoing that at the moment because mine is not as impressive right now. Okay, the mouse movements. Bear with me. And the next favorite of mine is also using WebGL, but not so much the audio stuff. Oh, yeah, it's started already. Use the webcam. Now this is actually what I've been using to create all of those awesome visual slides that you saw with the GIFs and everything. So all of my slides and those GIFs, all using JavaScript. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So you can do like really cool stuff. I can't really see what I'm doing. And it lets you record GIFs and also, let's get to a cool one, images. So this is all using WebGL in the browser, and you can also like make your own. I just like using the Mosh button because it can get to some really interesting. I was going to point the camera at you guys, but I didn't get a webcam in time. So this is. Yeah. I was trying to get to a really cool one. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh damn. It's pretty cool. So yeah, all my slides I made using this, and it's you can also upload images. So that's how I got those effects in the beginning. Okay. So Felix also wrote that one, so he's one of my idols in that space. And from the 3D stuff with WebGL, other cool things people were doing in this space were with 2D Canvas, and I rediscovered, I'd previously used Canvas a bit before, but I rediscovered how awesome it can be with all these like little demos. This library, Sketch.js, by a guy called Soulwire on Twitter, is really awesome. He's created a bunch of sweet, sweet animations, and the one named Particles, which you can see there, became very useful to me recently. At Vend, we have a keg, and a common problem is with the keg is we don't really track when it's finished, which has left a couple of Fridays pretty dry, and as web developers, this is unacceptable. So a few of us got together to hack on BLINGBOT, where a flow meter is attached to the keg, and via an API, you can receive data about how much is left, what beer is in there currently, what's coming up next, the temperature of the beer, all very important facts. The designs are by our very own Vend HQ pop maker, Jackie Lee. Him, Lance, Raph, and Jamie have done most of the hard work, and my contribution was, if it plays, bubbles. So this is supposed to be a GIF. Oh, there we go. So it's going to refresh. So it flows up. When people have a drink, it goes down, and I added this cool effect where the beer bubbles, and if you move the mouse around, you can play with the bubbles. Yeah, so they're all hacking on this like data and stuff, and I'm like, bubbles! So I was inspired by the Soulwire's Particles example in Sketch, and there was also this other bubble canvas experiment I found on CodePen. There's actually so much amazing stuff on CodePen done with just CSS, which is amazing. I'm still working on making the bubble physics more accurate, because one of the pieces of feedback were that bubbles don't go downwards. So I've got to make it more realistic. And I'm thinking of extending it into water bubbles with sound and things like that, so it's like a totally new facet for me, bubble making. To the BLINGBOT, we're also going to add things like slopping the liquid around on an iPad when you tilt it, which is going to be fun. And what is more fun than bubbles, really? So that's all the stuff I have in progress right now. And I'm pretty excited to keep tinkering with the audio-visual stuff. That's my current project. Because the WebGL things and just that idea of having it projected at a party or whatever just means that a whole lot of people can get more into JavaScript and get really into the code. So I've been finding that real fun. And with all these little projects, I think it's really important that we share what we are doing. If you tinker with an animation, host it on GitHub Pages or something and tweet it out. Open source your code. Write a blog post about something you've learned or found interesting. Even if you think it's a tiny project, if you learnt something, then others will too. If it wasn't for all these people sharing their WebGL and Canvas experiments, maybe BLINGBOT wouldn't have any bubbles. And, God. So not only is sharing important so we can learn from each other within our software circles, there's also the fact that every software company is struggling to find enough people to fill their roles. People aren't getting into programming, and especially here in Auckland, we're struggling to find JavaScript developers. And why is that? How amazing is programming? How amazing is JavaScript? We want to spread our craft to the masses. How better to do that than spreading how fun it is and what stuff you can achieve with it? We don't like sketch everywhere or graffiti on the streets or release films. We have the web, and it's our responsibility to fill it with cool shit. An interesting question people ask me when they hear about any of these little random projects I do is, how do you have time? And to be honest, I don't. This is literally me 2 nights ago finishing my presentation, and I felt exactly like what is illustrated in the GIF. I think it's like about 1 a.m. So yeah, that was created on Getmosh. I'm really addicted to it now. I'm not saying that's what you should do. 1 a.m. nights, that's hard. I try to make sure I don't look like that much either. The thing is, unless you make a concentrated effort to fit this kind of thing into what you're doing, you will never get this sudden wave of spare time. We need to make time for this stuff. Don't get too absorbed into work, 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 work. There's so much exciting stuff out there. I've only given you a taster. Hopefully you're now full of ideas to go away and tinker with. Give it a go, learn something, and share it. Remember to look after your craft. Take it back to the basics. Play with code for the fun of it. Achieving something useless can sometimes be the best thing ever. It's not always so serious. We are makers, we are coders. JavaScript is the new punk rock. And I think I'm really under time, but this is the peace out slide.